Welcome back to the Blue, Albertson Stadium, home of your Boise State Broncos, the bastion of Bronco Nation, a field of dreams where greatness has become a tradition. Whether you're new to Idaho and this is your first game, or your family has had season tickets for 3 generations, Lithia Ford of Boise wants you to know you're welcome here.
Bronco fans, we did it. 65-55 over Fresno State. That was definitely a nail-biter for you fans out there. Go to the comment section, give us your thoughts. Welcome to the Lithia Ford of Boise post-game show, sponsored by both Row Paint, Paint and Coatings, and also Lithia Ford of Boise, both the title sponsors of this show. Let's jump right into the highlights and give us your ear. We'll look at the comments first. There we go. Hell of a W. Broncos finished the month of December 7-0. That was a big thing, is finishing that month of December undefeated and limiting opponents for, I believe, the 7th straight game to either 60 points or less. So it's just, you could tell down the stretch there, things were getting a little bit nervous. Orlando Robinson was starting to take over, and the Broncos really just kicked it in gear and did what they've been doing late in the stretch throughout this whole win streak. Let me throw some highlights out on there. We can go over that. Just give me one moment. But yeah, go to the comment section. Give us your thoughts. A big win for the Broncos heading into your starting conference play and heading into that road stretch. Tyson for 3. Marmouche started off the game good. Orlando Robinson started to figure it out. Leon got on him. Really figured it out down the stretch and helped Acott when he was in foul trouble as well. Max Rice, his first bucket in a while, and that was nice for him. Just wanted to see. Marcus Shaver really took over in this game. There's Kijab. Out to Smith. Smith had a couple a 3 and then a couple big 2s in this game. There's Shaver again, that high arcing 3 that is so unique for that team. This was a big turning point, right at the shot clock, right at the second chance points for the Broncos. There's Acott to Tyson, Shaver. And this was actually one of the turning points in this game. That tied the game. And it seemed like the tide was turning, and then Tyson missed the shot. Those have been falling for the last 6 games. And eventually they did fall in the end when they got going. There's Shaver again. And this is when the crowd at Extra Mile Arena, that's the loudest I have ever heard it since I've been there. And it was intense. You could tell the team was getting into it. They really wanted that win. There you go, Acott pumping up the crowd. He didn't stop there. Something unique about this game was Tyson only finished with 3 shot attempts, which made it. There you go, 65-55. Let's check the comments and see what's going on in there. My ears still ring a bit from the record-setting loudness performance from Bronco Nation tonight. That's awesome. It was definitely loud in there tonight, and you could tell it was the loudest I've ever seen it, and it was just a great game as a whole. Orlando Robinson definitely took over, but it didn't necessarily ruin the game, obviously, considering the win. There were some tough stretches where the Broncos went on scoring droughts, but Tyson only taking 3 shots, that says a lot about this team. Shaver took over with 18 points. Marmouche finished with 12. Emmanuel Acott with 12. Max Rice had 4 points. And even though it's 4 points, he hasn't been scoring much, and he's a huge, huge part of this team. And there was a charge he took in the second or first half there that definitely made them go on a run in that first half. And let's hear from the guys post game. Marcus Shaver Jr. and Emmanuel Acott.
Shaver's a baller. day in, day out, every practice, he just comes to compete. And he's the best teammate you can have, so really appreciate it.
I was just going to say, Fresno State entered as the Mountain West top defense in terms of points allowed per game. You know, what was working for you tonight, and how were you able to shoot so well from the field?
We just watched a lot of film. We knew it was going to be an inside-out game, and our bigs just found us tonight. And we just knocked down shots. We were hot from three, I'm pretty sure. And yeah.
Marcus, just piggybacking off of Rachel's question, you know, you had spurts where you just kind of were seemingly couldn't miss baskets. You know, how good were you feeling out there tonight?
I was feeling great. The fans definitely helped. As soon as one goes in, just the basket gets bigger. I'm pretty sure that goes for every player. Yeah, just good team win tonight.
And then just you know, you guys have been strong defensively especially the last month. You know, 7 straight games, you guys have allowed 60 or fewer points. But you know, tonight, late game defense really won it for you guys. You know, what do you guys have to do to kind of, you know, stick it in there, and you know, when the going gets tough, you guys just keep staying tough?
We just had to thug it out, really. We're switching 1 through 5, and that worked for us. Yeah, just everybody just took off their gloves and just locked up on defense. We take pride in our defense, and it paid off tonight.
E-Man, you guys were tied at 50. What allowed you guys to finish down the stretch?
We've been in a lot of these tough games throughout the year. I think we're getting comfortable in playing these kind of gritty games, and we just kept our composure, having an experienced group. You know, we're just ready to go out there and play. So I think that's what attributed to our win tonight.
Did it feel different that this is the conference opener? I mean, as Coach Rice and the staff stressed that, like these games are worth almost twice as much?
No, I think we took every game this year with the, you know, having the will to win and coming out and competing. And we're just taking it one game at a time, and whether it's conference, non-conference, playoffs, it doesn't matter. We're going to come out and compete to the best of our ability.
Obviously, everybody's going to remember those 2 big shots for you. You had the jumper and then the three-pointer to put you guys up 55-50. But kind of a freshman behind the scenes there with the 2 steals. You know, what did you think of his performance and, you know, standing up defensively tonight?
Oh, he did great tonight. Defensively, he stepped it up big time for us, and we needed that. And yeah, just maybe, man, what you guys think about that?
You know, he's a freshman, true freshman, but he does not play like a freshman
at all.
He takes it very seriously, watching the film, understanding the scout. You know, he's not the quickest or, you know, fastest guy out there, but he's definitely one of the smartest dudes out there. So I gotta give my credit to T-Deggy playing spectacular for us. Shaver's a baller.
And, you know, I mean, 15-6 in turnovers with Boise turning it over 15 times compared to Fresno 6. You look at some of the stats in this game, and you would think the Broncos lost by 20. And but then again, you look at the shooting stats, and that tells a completely different story. 9 for 19, almost 50% from three-point range, 56% from the field, or 55.6. We round up here. And it was just, I mean, Fresno stopped 43%, which isn't terrible, but it was just the shots. They were taking long possessions, the shots that they got up. There was times where Fresno was making shots with fully contested shots where you got to figure to yourself, they're not going to make that shot again. And eventually the luck did run out. Something to note also, Boise State has moved up to number 50 in KenPom. So that means if Boise won't be hosting any neutral site games, but that would be a quad 1 win for another team coming if they were to meet on a neutral court, which is just crazy to think about with the loss to Bakersfield earlier in the season and the way they've turned it around for 7 straight games. It's just kind of unheard of at this point. And they go into Wyoming on New Year's Day, 11-2 Wyoming. Wyoming's number 89 in KenPom currently, or before the game they were. And they're going to be a really tough test. I mean, anytime you go up to the elevation, it's tough, especially around the New Year's, around the holidays. One thing that will help them is that there's no students in stands, and that'll be the same case at Utah State, maybe a little bit more with students coming back on campus, but you won't have those classes in session and that full crowd. And let's put it to Leon Rice and hear what he said over postgame.
That was a great Mountain West basketball game, and pretty much what I expected. I think there's 2 really good teams and 2 teams that can really guard. And, I think there was a couple spurts by us, and one in the first half, one in the second half, that were probably just the difference in the game.
Leon, what did you think of your defense tonight?
Well, it keeps getting better. And, you needed every stop down the stretch, and that's how Mountain West games are, like that. And if you can't get stops when you need them most, you're in trouble. And we have a team that hangs their hat on that. And I think the experience of what we had to do in the preseason, we seemed like we were in a million of these games, and so you got to be comfortable in that, and you got to be comfortable when they make that run that we can, hunker down, slap the floor, and go out and get a stop when we need it. And we got a couple of them down the stretch that were huge.
Can this be the best defense you've had here? Like, is it on that way, Leon?
Well, it's the best because it's the freshest in my mind. I know that, but you go back to Derek's team. That team the numbers that they put on people were amazing as far as the how little points we gave up. This team has more of a presence about them where it just seems hard to score. Because even I thought in the first half they threw in some shots at the end of the shot clock that were like, well, they can't make that one consistently, and they made some of those stuff. They hit a 3 right at the end, and I think they had 2 of those. So I think this team has a presence about them and a physicality about them, and they're good. We move our feet really well. They're good enough athletes that we can guard that way without fouling.
Seems like the best defense you guys are playing for in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's happened a few times this season. What is it in those late game situations that they really step it up? And
I just think it's number one, we got competitive guys. I mean, we've had practices that they convinced me of that, number one. And so they're really competitive. But like I said, I think there's a belief in what we're doing. And, it took me, it takes all of us to be comfortable with that, knowing that that's what we can hang our hat on. That last 5 minutes, we're pretty comfortable knowing that we can go get a stop, and we will go get a stop. And so I think to a man, all 23 of us know that, hey, we're where we want to be with 5 minutes to go, tied, because we're going to get stops.
You said quite a bit that Marcus Shaver Jr. has, been lights out in practice in certain situations.
Yeah.
And he did that again tonight with kind of those 2 buckets. He had the jumper.
And the pass late in the pass late in the shot clock, I thought that was huge. He hit the roller late, and Milan got a dunk, and I thought that was a pretty special play by him. And I rode him hard and put him away wet at halftime. He was pretty, because E-Man was in a little bit of foul trouble, and that group was making a run, so I just stayed with that a little bit, and I thought Marcus did a great job getting us through that to halftime.
You talk about it a lot, but kind of sandwiching the 2 Marcus Shaver shots there that put you up 55-50 were 2 Dagenhart steals. Although he only had 2 big shots tonight, kind of some of those behind the scenes moments.
Yeah, and he does what he does, and he does it pretty dang consistently. And so, he did some great things that that maybe don't show up in the way when one of the things you look at is. When you look at our rebounding, and we were plus 13 on the glass, which I thought was huge because they're one of the better rebounding teams. And so to have that big of an advantage, and we got some timely offensive ones too.
All right, so that was Leon. We had to cut him off a little bit. He was. There's more where that came from. We'll post that on our YouTube channel later tonight. And you can keep commenting in. Let us know your thoughts. But we're gonna shift it to Wyoming and really go over just what the Broncos have next on New Year's Day. So, I just checked, actually, Wyoming moved to number 90 in Ken Palm, so they dropped a spot, and they're sitting at 11-2, and you never want, in college basketball, in any sport, you never want to look over a team and say, oh, they're 11-2, but they haven't played anyone. But you do have to recognize that they haven't played some of the teams that the other Mountain West Conference teams have played. However, that doesn't mean the game gets any easier in Laramie. The elevation's there. Their only true road loss was really to the University of Arizona, who's, I believe, still a top 10 team if they lost a game. But they have a couple really good guys. Hunter Maldonado, he just got announced as Mountain West Player of the Week. Ike Graham, both those guys averaged 17 and 19. Something to note also is that Wyoming plays a very, very similar style to Boise State in terms of really only having that 7-ish guys on the court at the same time. Obviously, Kuzmanovic might come back with his ankle and extend that to 8, maybe 9, depending on who you want to get in. If Milner gets some time. But really, they play the same type of style where they have four guys that average double digits in their starting lineup. So they have the same lineup out there most of that game, and it's going to be tough because if Boise State does that, they looked pretty gassed tonight at the end of the game, starting using those same 5-6 players. That could be a test because the elevation might get to them, and Wyoming could be more prepared for that down the stretch. But really, I mean, the defense. If the defense continues to play the same way Boise State has been playing, that's something to note. Where you're not going to lose many games if you're giving up less than 60 points, and they've continued to do that. But you got to get the offense together. And like I mentioned, there's not going to be crazy atmosphere in Laramie just because it's a consistent style of defense. You're not going to have students there, and they really put themselves in a good spot tonight to go to Laramie and get a New Year's Day victory, and hopefully come home after and spend the rest of the holidays with their families before they go back. And then it doesn't get easier. You go to Utah State, and I think they host Colorado State on the 7th. And then you got Nevada. So the Mountain West is a really tough trek this year, and we'll see where it goes, and we'll definitely have full coverage. We won't be in Laramie for that, but I'll actually be in Logan, Utah on that Tuesday night game, and we'll have full coverage. We'll get Leon and one of the players to join the show, and it's just great. I mean, 65-55, win 7 straight for the Broncos. This has been the Lithia Ford of Boise post-game show. Thank you for our sponsors, Lithia Ford of Boise and Row Paint. There we go. We'll throw those up on there. Power and People, Pride in Painting. Thank you, Andy Rowe. And we'll see you next time. We'll get all those interviews out on YouTube, and we appreciate you tuning in. It's been a really fun time. I know BJ's loved it since he started this, and I've definitely had a hell of a time as well. It's been great. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you if you're not subscribed, please consider it. It's great coverage, and it's a blast doing all the recruiting stuff, and we'll get to it. 65-55. This has been the Lithia Ford at Boise post-game show.
Welcome back to the Blue, Albertson Stadium, home of your Boise State Broncos, the bastion of Bronco Nation, a field of dreams where greatness has become a tradition. Whether you're new to Idaho and this is your first game, or your family has had season tickets for 3 generations, Lithia Ford of Boise wants you to know you're welcome here.